Let's unravel the info and done buttons and see how they work in the My World application that we're developing based on the utility application template. In the process, you'll find out a bit about how to connect user interface controls to your code. We'll start with the info button in the main view. We select main view XIB in the project navigator to show the nib file in the interface builder over here on the right in the editor area. Let's click on the I button in the lower right corner of the view, and then click the Attributes Inspector button at the top of the inspector pane. As you can see, the info button supplied with the utility application template is set to be of a certain type called Info Light. Here's the type pop-up menu. For example, if we change it to Info Dark, you can barely see it down here. Or if we change it to something else, such as a rounded rectangle, or detailed disclosure, or add contact button. Now let's go back and change it to what it should be, Info Light. You can also change the font here, the text color, the shadow color, etc., and many other attributes. To find out more about the info button in the main view, we can control click or right click if you have a 2-button mouse, the info button, display a pop-up menu, which we can then resize or scroll. And as we scroll or resize it, we see that there is a touch up inside event that's being sent to the file's owner and the show info method. Touch up inside is the actual event. So that means when you tap, it's actually recording only if you're inside the button and when you're releasing your finger, a touch up. So let's close this pop-up menu. Now, to see what's going on in this view a little more clearly, we can expand the dock view by clicking the disclosure triangle down here. So now we see those icons in an expanded view. In fact, it's a hierarchical navigational view. So if you open view, you'll see there's a button within the view. If we select a button to see the button attributes in the inspector pane here, we can then click the connections button at the top of the inspector pane over here. Or of course, choose view utilities connections inspector, either one. Here we see the button's connections. And down here, once again, we see touch up inside connected to the file's owner and the method show info. Now, of course, those are just two different ways of looking at the connections, either through that pop-up menu here with a control click or by looking here. So the info button reacts to a touch up inside event. And this occurs when the button is touched and then released, which symbolizes a tap. When that happens, it invokes the show info method in main view controller. How do we know that? Because the file's owner in the inspector pane is main view controller. So let's go look at that show info method. First of all, in main view controller.h, it's tagged here with an IB action so that it would be recognized by the interface builder. In main view controller.m, we see the IB action show info method here. So that's how the info button happens. It executes the show info method, which initializes the flip side view controller, init with nib name flip side view, sets the transition style to a flip horizontal, presents a modal view managed by the given view controller, which in this case is flip side view control. And because it says yes, it animates the view as it's presented, which gives us that animated flip horizontal transition. There is, of course, a bit more to this, but we'll go over that a little bit later. Now let's go see how the Done button in the flip side view works. Now we'll select flipsideview.xib. And in the canvas, as you can see here, we can find the Done button. As we click on it, the hierarchical view opens up all the way to the bar button item. So what we have here is a view with a navigation bar, which appears under the view. In that, we have a navigation item with the title, which is inside the navigation bar, and within that is the bar button item, which is inside the navigation item. The navigation bar is, of course, a subclass of UI navigation bar. The UI navigation bar class implements a control for navigating hierarchical content. It's a bar at the top of the screen that can offer buttons for navigating up and down a hierarchy. The primary properties are a left, like a back button, a center title, and an optional right or forward button. And if we close this, you see that if we were going to add another bar button, which we would find here, Windows and Bars in the library pane, if we were going to add the right button, it would show up right here. Let's open this up again and select bar button item. This is the Done button. So you use a navigation item, an instance of the UI navigation item class, to specify what buttons or custom views you want to have displayed on the bar. A navigation bar manages a stack of UI navigation item objects, such as the navigation item and the bar button item. Now let's take a look at the bar button item's attributes by opening the Attributes Inspector pane. We can see that the bar button is styled to be bordered as opposed to plain. The identifier is done as opposed to, say, cancel. There are other identifiers that are possible here, such as edit and so forth. Save. A very simple done button. Now let's see what it does by clicking the Connections Inspector. Here we see the button's connections, and in the Sent Actions section we see that done is connected to the file's owner. Now we can see how this is set up by looking at first flipsideviewcontroller.h. Now let's highlight this section. Here we declare the delegate for the flipside view controller and add it as a property. And then over in flipsideviewcontroller.m, at the very bottom, scroll down to find the IBActionDone method. Here the code uses the delegate object to intercept the done message. And that's how the flipside view works. In putting together a great iPhone app, a big part of the process involves getting your app's user interface to work well. Interfaces are important, so important, in fact, that the templates try to enforce a user-friendly interface that adheres to Apple's standards. So if you're putting out a utility app, Apple would really like you to use the Info and Done buttons and organize the app to have a main and a flip side view. It's just the way it's done, so pick your template wisely.